Do you want to host a Hytale server for free but not sure where to start? I'm breaking down exactly what you need to know. The real system requirements, the security mistake that could destroy your world, and whether self-hosting is actually worth it compared to using a provider. If this helps you out, hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with all the server guides from all things hosting. First, why would you even self-host? Running your own server is free. It gives you complete control over the world, who plays, and what rules apply. You're not at the mercy of a public server that might change ownership, go offline, or enforce rules you don't agree with. For friend groups or small communities, it's the difference between playing on your own terms and dealing with someone else's server. The trade-off is that you're responsible for everything: setup, maintenance, troubleshooting, network configuration, port forwarding, and keeping the server online 24/7. If something breaks at 2 a.m., you're the one fixing it. No technical support standing by to help. Now let's talk about some of the system requirements, because the official documentation doesn't give you the full story. Hypixel Studios says you need a minimum of 4 gigs of RAM. That's technically true, it will run, but it crashes frequently once you have multiple players online. The server starts fine, but as people play and the world loads more chunks, you'll hit memory limits and crash. 8 gigs of RAM for small groups with 4 to 8 players should be better. This gives you enough headroom to avoid constant crashes. If you're running more players or planning to add mods once they're available, you'll want more. But for getting started, 8 gigs is the sweet spot. 8 gigs of RAM would typically cost between $25 to $70. Here's something critical: if you're running Hytale in a Docker container, don't allocate 100% of your available RAM to the server. The container itself needs memory to operate. If you give the Java process all of it, you'll crash with out-of-memory errors. For smaller setups with 4 to 8 gigs total RAM, allocate 75% to the heap. Beyond RAM, you'll want a reasonably modern CPU. Anything from the last 5 years should be fine for small servers. The average CPU costs around $200 to $300, and a high-end CPU would be around $400 to $500 plus. In terms of storage, you need at least 10 gigs of storage space. NVMe SSD storage is strongly preferred, and this would typically cost around $40 to $60 for 500 gigs or $70 to $150 for a terabyte. Chunk loading on a hard drive will make the experience very painful for everyone. Now, here's the big issue that will destroy your server if you're not careful: the operator security issue. By default, Hytale allows any player to make themselves an operator by running /op self in-game. That means anyone who joins your server can give themselves admin permissions without you knowing. A rogue operator can grief your world, ban legitimate players, change server settings, and generally destroy everything you've built. This isn't a minor inconvenience. It's a server-killing vulnerability if left open. The fix for this is quite simple. Don't use the allow-op startup flag. If you're running the server via command line, simply omit this flag. If you're using a control panel or startup script that includes it, remove it. Check this setting before you invite anyone to your server. People have had their worlds completely destroyed within hours of launch because they didn't know about this default behavior. Next up is networking and port configuration. Hytale servers run on port 5520 by default. If you're self-hosting on your own hardware, you'll need to forward this port through your router and make sure your firewall allows traffic on it. I have a video explaining how to port forward for most games. You can watch that here. If you're running Hytale in a Docker container, you must explicitly map the port when you start the container. The container network is isolated by default, so even if the server is listening on 5520 inside the container, it won't be accessible from outside unless you map it. Let's talk about some common issues that you'll run into. Out-of-memory crashes are the most frequent problem. The server runs fine for a while, then suddenly stops responding and crashes. If you haven't allocated enough RAM to begin with, you need more. If you're using a container and allocated 100% of RAM as heap space, reduce your heap allocation to be between 50 to 75% of your total available RAM. If you have a high view distance value, lower it. Hypixel Studios confirmed the process that uses the most RAM is view distance. For connection problems, the usual suspects are: port 5520 is not forwarded through your router, firewall is blocking the port, server isn't actually running, or you're using the wrong IP address. Players need your public IP, not your local network IP. Test the connection yourself from outside your network first using your phone's mobile hotspot. So here's the big question: is self-hosting actually worth it? The advantage of self-hosting is that the actual hosting is free aside from the electricity and the hardware costs, and you have complete control. The disadvantage is that you have to deal with all the infrastructure headaches: network configuration, RAM tuning, security hardening, and troubleshooting at midnight when something breaks. If that sounds like more work than you want to deal with, a server hosting provider removes all of that. You don't have to troubleshoot networking issues, worry about an operator ruining your server, or getting the optimization settings perfect. Pine Hosting has you covered. They handle port configuration, startup parameters, and optimization for you. The allow-op flag is disabled by default, so you won't accidentally leave your server vulnerable. Support is 24/7 from developers and server experts who respond fast, and Pine has a Trustpilot rating of 4.9 out of 5. Plans start at 4 gig, but based on testing, I'd go for 8 gigs for small groups to avoid the frequent crashes that come with running at minimum specs. You get Ryzen CPUs, NVMe storage, 99.99% uptime, DDoS protection, and a mobile-friendly website to manage your server from anywhere. Plus, they offer a 48-hour refund policy, so there's no risk in trying it out. Use my code ATH on the link in the description for 30% off your first month with Pine Hosting. Let me know in the comments what issues you've run into with Hytale servers so far, and let me know if you would go with renting a server for Hytale. And as always, I'll see you in the next video.